Hello, how are you? My name is Aisha, and today I'd like to speak to you guys about sundown towns. This should be a pretty short video. I'm just going to read a little bit of this article. If you don't know what a sundown town is, it's basically a town that when the sun goes down, Black people need to be out of it. Um, Other races were involved, but we know that the abuse on the Black community is very real and has been going on for a long time. And since I'm Black, that's what I'm talking about. So, this is a really painful history. And I know it's frustrating, but the only reason why I make these videos is to let people that look like me to understand their history. We're repeating history, and at this point, it's just getting bad. It's getting worse. And I just want you all to know your history. And I want to know my history. So this article is from blackpast.org. It is titled Sundown Towns. And it is dated August 23rd, 2020. So I think this is a real book. I've never seen this book. But this book is the Black Motorist Green book. It's 1940, Victor Hugo Green. So, sundown towns are all white communities, neighborhoods, or counties that exclude Blacks and other minorities through the use of discriminatory laws, harassment, and threats or use of violence. The name derives from the posted and verbal warnings issued to Blacks that although they might be allowed to work or travel in a community during the daytime, they must leave by sundown. Although the term most often refers to the forced exclusion of Blacks, the history of sundown towns also includes prohibitions against Jews, Native Americans, Chinese, Japanese, and other minority groups. So you see, this was just anybody with a little bit of hue, anybody that was different than the white people, they could work. Oh, you can always work. You can always be, these people's slaves, but you got to go home at some point because they don't really want to see you. They just need you there to do their dirty work, basically. Although it is difficult to make an accurate count, historians estimated there were up to 10,000 sundown towns in the United States between 1890 and 1960, mostly in the Midwest and West. So, just really fast, let's talk about those years from 1890 to 1960. 1960s were around the civil rights movement. 1960s was a time where the world was quote unquote or America was trying to be nice to Black people, and we're not going to hang you anymore. We're not going to beat you in the streets anymore. Although throughout those years, they were literally doing that because people wanted what? Civil rights. America can make you very, very angry if you are a person of color. And the white population will never understand it because they don't have to suffer abuse like people of color have to. So you want these people to understand you, but I think you're asking a lot for these people to try to get inside your head as a brown person, a Black person, and say, I totally understand. At the very least, they're just going to have a bit of sympathy. I just don't think they can go there. And I just don't think most of them want to go there because this was done by people that look like them. That's my honest opinion. They began to proliferate during the Great Migration, starting in about 1910, when large numbers of African Americans left the South to escape racism and poverty. As Blacks began to migrate to other regions of the country, many predominantly white communities actively discouraged them from settling there. So even though they brought in the other groups in the last paragraph, they said this was not just excluded or this was just not for Blacks. They named the other people. You can still see that this is a thing for Black people and people are just kind of thrown in there. So it's very confusing. It's actually not confusing at all. But this is exactly why in 2020, other people want to jump in on civil rights because we've been treated so badly. Well, we know other people have been treated badly. But have you been hung from trees? Have you had a whole lynch mob come after you, come to your house and take you to kill you? Like, this is the frustration that we have in the United States because everybody wants civil rights, but they have not been abused to the extent for the amount of years that we've been abused, but they still just want to jump on the bandwagon. And this is kind of the problem that I have with other people. I want other people to be helped in this country, but at the same time, we just keep being thrown to the wayside while everybody else gets little crumbs and moves past us. Just think about it. The means to announce and enforce racial restrictions varied across the country. In its most blatant form, signs were posted at city limits. One in Alex, Arkansas in the 1930s, for instance, read, "Nigger, don't let the sun go down on you in Alex." Others stated, "Whites only after dark." Many sundown towns use derogatory housing covenants to ensure no non-white person would be allowed to purchase or rent a home. Remember redlining? Did a video on that. Check it out. In the 1940s, Edmond, Oklahoma promoted itself on postcards with the slogan, "A good place to live, no Negroes." So once again, directed right at you. The town of Mena, Arkansas advertised in many charms, "Cool summers, mild winters, no blizzards, no Negroes." In other cases, the policy was enforced through less formal norms and sanctions. Businesses that served Black customers or hired Black employees would be boycotted by the white townspeople, ensuring that Blacks had few, if any, job opportunities in those communities. So working against you to sabotage you. And they still do this to this day on a low level and still tell you it's not racism or make jokes. Is this racist? Everything's racist. Just like, no, you're fucking racist. And you know it. That's why you make these fucking jokes. And at the very least, if you're not a racist, you're a fucking bigot. Stop playing with these people and tell them off every single time they piss you off. Period. Racial exclusion in sundown towns was also archived with violence. African Americans who lingered in sundown towns, even during the daytime, experienced harassment, threats, arrests, and beatings. It was not uncommon for Black motorists passing through these communities to be followed by police or local residents to the city limits. Think about that. In extreme cases, hostility towards African Americans resulted in extrajudicial killing. The lynching of 2 Black teenagers in Marion, Indiana in 1930, for instance, resulted in the town's 200 Black residents moving away, never to return. So we always have to get up and move when these people harass us. But there's no racism. The rise of sundown towns made it difficult and dangerous for Black people to travel long distances by car. In 1930, for instance, 44 of the 89 counties along the famed Route 66 from Chicago to Los Angeles featured no motels or restaurants and prohibited Blacks from entering after dark. In response, Victor H. Green, a postal worker from Harlem, compiled the Negro Motorist Green Book, a guide to accommodations that serve Black travelers. The guide was published from 1936 to 1966, and at its height of popularity was used by 2 million people. Historians have found that most sundown towns deliberately hid the means by which they became and remained all white. Apart from oral histories, there are often few archival records that describe precisely how sundown towns excluded Blacks. Laws and policies that enforced racial exclusion have largely disappeared. Yeah, right. But de facto sundown towns existed in the 1980s, and some may still be in evidence today. So, fun fact, I live in Oregon, and about 76 miles from where I live, there was an old sundown town. And the first time I ever heard them talking about it, I did not know what the hell they were talking about. I was probably 11 or 12, and they're like, yeah, if you're in, I think it's called White City too. You better leave White City before the sun goes down, or you'll be arrested or whatever. And I was just a kid, so I'm thinking, what the fuck is really going on? And now I know. So, once again, like I said, say sometimes in my other videos, don't listen to these people that try to tell you you're being divisive. America's divisive. America's the only reason why we feel this way. Please understand that you would never feel this frustrated, irritated, disgusted feeling if it were not for America's rules and laws geared towards you. You would never feel any animosity, and we would never even be speaking about race if it wasn't for a certain group of people in America. I'm sorry that I have to say that, but it's the goddamn truth. There is no way you can freaking try to change that around. You can't mince words anymore. This was a certain group of people that were doing it to you, and now they still tell you that you are divisive if you try to tell them their history. Stop being nice. Love everyone, but don't take people's shit. Because we've literally been taking shit on this turf for fucking 400 plus years. Taking abuse, hung from trees, sundown towns, Jim Crow, taking your babies, selling them. It's ridiculous. And for anyone to tell you that you don't have the right to feel the way that you feel, they should fuck off for real. And you should never speak to them again. I don't give a shit how much time goes by. If you don't fix what you fucked up, then people are still going to feel animosity. And that's just what it is. To this day, I still believe if white people were thrust into slavery or were in slavery at the time, and we were in from the 1800s, we'll say, they would still be complaining, they'd still be whining, and they would fucking hate us more than they hate us now for no good reason. They don't know why they hate us. And I'm not saying that that's all white people, so don't get it twisted. But this is where we're at, and we just need to know our history. Very frustrating stories, but they are needed. I hope that you continue to learn about your history so we can get through this. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening. Bye.